In the south of a country, on an island in the Mediterranean, there is an olive tree. It is 3,000 years old. It had been producing oil for centuries before Christ was born. It is still producing oil today and tomorrow, when I am no longer here, and when you are no longer here. It will keep producing it. Someone planted it. Someone with dirt under his fingernails 3,000 years ago opened a hole in the ground and placed a small cutting inside. He did not know whom it would feed. He did not know how many generations would sit beneath its shade. He did not live to see it fully bloom, but he planted it. Today, I'm going to talk to you about 15 trees. 15. Some will give you fruit next year. Others will do so when your grandchildren already have gray hair. But all of them have one thing in common. If you plant them today, you will be doing what that man did 3,000 years ago on that hillside in Crete. Something that outlives the person who plants it. And that is probably the most serious thing a human being can do with their hands. My name is Hank, and I am 60 years old. And I'm recording this video thinking about my son, who one day will have children, and about those children who do not yet exist. The question is not what money I'm going to leave them, nor what house, nor what inheritance. The question is something else. The question is what they are going to eat, what they are going to touch with their hands, what they are going to smell in spring when they come to the village and open the garden gate. And the answer to that question today, while you are alive and still have strength in your arms, depends on you. Planting a tree is not gardening. Planting a tree is an act of faith in the future. It is telling time, I was here, and I did not take away what I left behind. Stay until the end, because tree number 8 is one you plant in your youth, and it gives you the sweetest cherries of your life in mature age. And there are still countries where it is planted on the day a grandchild is born, so it will bloom when that grandchild turns 20. I'm going to tell that slowly. And trees number 12 and 14 on this list, I'm warning you now, are madness. One can live for 2,000 years. The other, 1,000. What you plant today will be bearing fruit for your grandchildren, for your grandchildren's grandchildren, and for people we cannot even imagine yet. Some of those trees, in the most beautiful way, will be tied to your family name. You will understand why. If on this channel you are learning to look at things more calmly, to understand that life is not measured only by what you consume today, subscribe to Hank's Greenery. Hit the bell. Here we think in the long term. Here we plant for those who are coming. Let's go through the 15. From the shortest wait to the longest. We'll start with those that will give you fruit before you even realize it. And we'll end with those that leave a mark for centuries. Number 1, the peach tree, or durazno, as they call it in Mexico and in much of Latin America. We begin with the one that rewards you the fastest. You plant it today, and in 2 or 3 years, if you take good care of it, you have the first harvest of peaches in your hand. 2 years. It is one of the most generous fruit trees in the short term. But I'm going to be honest with you, because I care that you understand what you have in your hands. The peach tree is not one of the long-lived trees. It lives between 15 and 20 years in full production and then begins to decline. It is the tree of noble urgency, not the tree of legacy. And still, every family orchard should have one. And why? Because it teaches you patience, but only a little. It gives you the first victory. It shows you that, yes, your hands are made for this. My grandfather always planted a peach tree the first year on any new piece of land he took on. He said it was the tree that tests the grower without punishing him. If the peach tree turns out well for you, the rest will come. And the peaches that your own tree gives you, at just the right point, picked by you, so juicy they soak your shirt when you bite into them, have nothing to do with the ones from the supermarket. Nothing. You discover that in the first summer of your first tree, and there is no going back. Number 2, the fig tree. 2 or 3 years until the first figs. But the fig tree has a particular quality that very few people know about, and that makes it special among all the trees on this list. In warm climates, it can give 2 harvests a year. Breba figs in June, figs in August and September. A single adult fig tree feeds you twice every summer, and it lives between 50 and 100 years. My father planted a fig tree the year I was born. He planted it in a corner of the orchard, in soil that was almost good for nothing, next to a stone wall facing south. Today it is still giving figs. I have eaten figs from that tree every summer of my life. My children, too, when they come to visit me. And when my grandchildren come someday, they too will eat from the same fig tree. There is something few people know about this tree, and it is that it is the first tree mentioned by name in the Bible, in Genesis. Adam and Eve covered themselves with fig leaves. That tells you how long this plant has been with us. It has been with humanity since humanity has known itself to be humanity. And here is a practical tip that will save you years of mistakes. The fig tree does not need rich soil, almost the opposite. In poor, dry soil, against a sunny wall, it gives better fruit. It is one of the most generous trees with the fewest demands. Plant it where nothing else fits, and thank it every August for the basket of figs you will be sharing with your neighbors for decades. Number 3, the pomegranate tree. 3 or 4 years until the first serious fruit, and it lives between 100 and 200 years. 200. Without major care, without abundant watering, without luxury soil. I already introduced this plant to you in the video about the 20 foods of the Bible. But here it belongs for another reason. Here it belongs because 200 years means something very specific. It means that the pomegranate tree you plant this autumn in a corner of your garden will most likely still be split open by your great-grandchild's hands in autumn when neither you nor I are here. And that simple calculation is what changes the way you look at the tree while you plant it. And another practical fact you should know: the pomegranate tree resists drought like few fruit trees. It is not afraid of summer. It tolerates mediocre soil. If you live in a hot, dry area where other fruit trees suffer and die, the pomegranate tree will be your best ally. And it will give you a fruit dense in antioxidants, with compounds that modern science has been studying for years with true fascination, and a flavor unlike anything else. One warning: the roots of the pomegranate tree are aggressive and spread widely sideways. Do not plant it next to an important wall or a pipe. Give it space. Plant it where it can rule. Number 4, the quince tree. 3 or 4 years for the first harvest. Tree lifespan between 50 and 60 years. Resistant, frugal, perfect for small orchards and urban patios. Because, pay attention to this, the quince tree stays low and compact. It does not invade your garden. It fits in a modest patio. This is the grandmother's fruit pear excellence. Quince paste. Homemade quince paste kept in glass jars lined up in the pantry. The one your grandmother brought out in winter to eat with fresh cheese. The one that smelled of boiling sugar for hours in the kitchen while you played in the courtyard. If you were not raised by a Mediterranean or Latin American grandmother who made quince paste, you missed one of the most serious things in the family orchard. One of the things with the strongest flavor of childhood. And here is the good news. The quince tree does well where other more delicate trees do not like the climate. It resists the cold better than the lemon tree. It withstands heat better than the apple tree of temperate zones. It is a middle ground tree, one that adapts. And it produces enormously. A single mature quince tree gives you enough quinces to make quince paste for the whole family, give some to the neighbors, and still have plenty left over. Number 5. The orange tree and the lemon tree. I speak of the two together because they live in the same world, require the same care, and are usually planted as a pair in any serious Mediterranean orchard. 3 to 5 years until the first proper harvest. Tree lifespan between 50 and 80 years, with documented cases of century-old orange trees still producing. If you live in a warm climate, not planting an orange tree or a lemon tree is almost a domestic crime. A single, mature lemon tree gives you hundreds of lemons a year. Hundreds. I am not exaggerating. You do not use that many lemons in a year, not even giving bags away to your neighbors. You have leftovers. You start inventing ways to use them. Lemonade all summer. Preserved lemons in salt to use in stews for months. Oil with lemon peel for fish. Bitter marmalade. And there is something else, almost better than the fruit. Orange blossom. When the orange tree and the lemon tree bloom, twice a year in a Mediterranean climate, the whole patio smells, and I mean truly smells. It is a perfume that gets inside you and stays in your memory for life. If your patio has never smelled of orange blossom, you do not know what you are missing. Important practical note. Orange and lemon trees do not tolerate hard frosts. If you live in a cold area, plant them in a large pot so you can protect them in winter. In coastal Mediterranean areas, plant them in the ground and let them live. And that is the first 5, the fast ones, the ones that brighten your orchard in just a few years. And I want you to pause with me for a moment, because this is going to be important for understanding what comes next. Think of yourself 5 years ago, exactly 5 years ago, where you were, what you were doing, what you were thinking about. I can assure you of one thing, without knowing you, those 5 years flew by. Look at what you did with them. Some you made good use of. Others slipped through your fingers without you really knowing why. But they passed, and here you are. That is what it costs to plant the first good tree. 5 years, and the next 5 will pass just as quickly. Only this time, if you plant today, you will spend them with a tree growing in the patio. And that, I'm telling you seriously, changes everything. It changes how you sit on the orchard bench in April. It changes what you see when you open the kitchen window in the morning. It even changes how you experience your own birthdays, because you begin to measure your age also by the age of your trees. Let's go to the next ones. Those that already begin to ask for adult patience. Number 6, the apple tree, 4 to 6 years for serious production. Tree lifespan, between 50 and 100 years. And there are documented apple trees that have passed 150 years and still produce apples, although that is already the exception. My father planted 2 apple trees when I turned 10. I remember the day with a clarity that still surprises me. I remember thinking they took too long to give apples, wondering why he was planting them. I was 10 years old. I did not understand anything yet. By the time I was 17, those apple trees were giving apples every autumn, 1 full basket per tree. My father died at 75. The apple trees are still alive. They still produce. And when I eat an apple from there, I know exactly what I am biting into. It is something more than an apple. It is half of my father's life, turned into fruit. The apple tree explains that better than I can. 2 important practical warnings. First, the apple tree needs winter cold to bear fruit well. In very warm areas, you have to choose specific varieties with low chilling requirements. Second, a single apple tree rarely bears fruit on its own. It needs a pollinating companion nearby. If you plant one, plant two of compatible varieties. A good nursery can guide you on that without any problem. Number 7. The pear tree. 4 to 7 years until harvest. Tree lifespan between 60 and 100 years. And there are pear trees in European orchards that their current owners did not plant, that were planted by their great-grandfather, and that still give pears as if nothing had happened. That is legacy in its purest form. The pear tree is the serious cousin of the apple tree. Taller, longer lived, more generous once it reaches maturity. It asks for a little more patience at the start, but once in full production, it gives more fruit than almost any other fruit tree in a family orchard. And there is one detail very few people know. Pears have one of the most varied textures of any fruit. A pear from your own tree, picked at its point, is nothing like a supermarket pear. It tastes like something else. It has real juice. It has real sugar. It has aroma. Modern industry picks pears hard and green so they can endure transportation. You let yours ripen on the tree, or you pick them firm and ripen them in a basket on the table. The difference is brutal. Number 8. The cherry tree. This is the one I promised you at the beginning. 5 to 7 years until the first harvest. Tree lifespan between 60 and 100 years. And here comes one of my favorite stories. One worth telling slowly. In Japan, there is a tradition that few people outside the country know. When a grandchild is born, the grandparents plant a cherry tree. They do not plant it so the grandchild can eat cherries, although that too. They plant it so it will bloom when the grandchild turns 20. So that during that grandchild's first adult spring, when the boy or girl is beginning to understand what life is, the cherry tree will be in full bloom. There, waiting, after 20 years of growing in silence for that exact moment. That is the idea. Planting while thinking about a precise date 20 years from now. Thinking about a person who has not yet learned to speak. That, for me, is the height of the art of planting. The most beautiful and the most serious thing. I do not have grandchildren yet. My son has not decided yet. He still has his own path ahead, I suppose, or perhaps not. I do not pressure him. That is his decision. But the day it happens, the day someone calls me grandfather for the first time, my first decision will have been made long before. I will go down to the orchard and I will plant a cherry tree. That will be my way of saying to the newcomer, welcome. There is a tree waiting for you for when you grow up. It is here, where your grandfather planted it on the day you were born. Practical note, the cherry tree blooms earlier than almost any other fruit tree. It announces spring with white or pink flowers that fill the entire crown. It is ornamental and useful at the same time. And cherries, besides being one of the most delicious fruits that exist, are dense in antioxidants and documented anti-inflammatory compounds. Goodness and beauty in the same tree. Number 9, the hazelnut tree. 5 to 8 years until full harvest. Tree lifespan between 80 and 100 years. But here comes a secret that changes everything. The hazelnut tree sprouts again. When a hazelnut tree grows old, its old trunks can be cut down to ground level, and it sprouts again from the base with new stems. That means that a well-cared-for hazelnut tree, regenerated every so often, can live far more than a century. There are hazelnut stands in European forests that have been the same organism for generations, simply renewing their trunks. The hazelnut tree is one that few people think of planting, and that is a big mistake. Hazelnuts besides being nutritious, can be stored dry for months without any special care. You put them in a jar and they last. They are easy to store, they do not spoil, and they provide good fats, magnesium, vitamin E, and plant protein. It is one of the nuts with the best nutritional value in the family orchard, and it is resistant. It withstands temperate and cold climates, does not mind humidity, and is not highly demanding. If you live in an area where almond or walnut trees suffer because of humidity, the hazelnut tree gives you the nutritional equivalent without complaint. Number 10. The almond tree. 5 to 8 years until serious production. Tree lifespan between 50 and 80 years. The almond tree is the first tree to bloom in spring. It does so when winter is not yet fully ended. When there are still frosts some nights and the other trees still seem asleep, the almond tree is covered in white or pink flowers against all odds, as if it knew something the others did not. That is why, in ancient Hebrew, the word for almond tree and the word for watching share the same root. I already told this in the video about biblical plants. The almond tree watches. It is awake before any other. And here comes the important practical part. The almond tree tolerates drought and heat better than almost any fruit tree. In areas with little irrigation, where other fruit trees die of thirst, the almond tree endures and produces. It is one of the most efficient trees in terms of water used per pound of fruit produced. And almonds keep for years. You put them in a dry sack and they last. They are one of the most nutritionally complete nuts that exist. In inland Mediterranean areas, where water is becoming increasingly scarce, the almond tree should be the first tree planted, not the last. And here we have reached 10, and I want you to pause with me again, because something important is happening in this video, and I do not want you to miss it. When I talk about apple trees, cherry trees, almond trees, hazelnut trees, I am not talking only about trees. I am talking about your father and your mother, about what your grandparents planted and what you ate without thinking where it came from, about the fact that some human being before you, at some point, decided to dig a hole and place a tree in the ground, and that tree, without the one who planted it knowing, reached your mouth 50 years later. You are here, eating what you eat, partly thanks to hands that no longer exist. Hands you never saw. Hands that have been dry and buried for decades. But their work continues. The fruit keeps falling. The question is, who will eat 50 years from now because of something you decide to plant today? What grandchild? What great-grandchild? What kid who is not part of your family but walks past your old orchard and dares to pick a fruit from the ground will be nourished by something you place beneath the soil today? Let's go for the last 5. The great ones, those that truly cross generations. Number 11, the avocado tree, or palto, as they call it in Argentina, Chile, and Peru. Here I need you to listen carefully, because there is a practical fact that will save you years of mistakes if you decide to plant one. 5 to 8 years until harvest, if it is grafted. If you plant an avocado pit from the supermarket and wait for it to bear fruit, you will be waiting between 10 and 15 years, and the fruit will probably not resemble the original pit. It will become something else, usually worse. An ungrafted avocado tree is a gardening whim, not a serious investment. The grafted tree, on the other hand, is another story. It lives between 50 and 80 years. It produces pounds and pounds every season, and avocados from your own tree, picked at exactly the right point, are nothing like supermarket avocados that travel thousands of miles after being picked green so they can endure the journey. It is another fruit. It tastes different. It is creamier, denser, more everything. Climate warning. The avocado tree wants a warm climate without hard frosts and plenty of water during the summer. In cold areas, it is not for you. Do not insist. In warm, Mediterranean, subtropical, and tropical climates, it is one of the most generous trees that exist. A single mature tree gives you more avocados than you can eat. Number 12. The olive tree. This is one of the two I promised you at the beginning. 5 to 10 years until serious production. And here is the fact that will make you look at this tree with different eyes forever. The olive tree lives under normal conditions between 800 and 2,000 years. I'll say it again so it does not sound like a mistake. Between 800 and 2,000 years. On the island of Crete in Greece, there is an olive tree called the olive tree of Vouvres. Scientists have dated it through its rings in carbon, 14. It is between 3,000 and 5,000 years old. It is still producing olives. The people of the nearby village harvest them every autumn. They make oil from them. They bottle it, and people buy it as a souvenir from the oldest still productive tree in the world. Think about that for a second. 3,000 years. When that olive tree gave its first olives, the Roman Empire did not exist. When it gave olives in its 5th century, Christ had not yet been born. When it gave olives in its first millennium, Rome had just fallen. And it is still producing today. And there is more. In the Garden of Gethsemane, in Jerusalem, where Jesus spent the night before the crucifixion, there are olive trees that scientific dating places between 900 and 2,000 years old. Some researchers even argue that they are direct descendants of the original olive trees that were there that night. In other words, in the genome of those trees lives the grove that saw Jesus. If you plant an olive tree today in your patio, you have to accept something. That tree will probably bury you, your children, your grandchildren, your grandchildren's grandchildren, and the children of those grandchildren. You will begin something that you alone will begin, and that will continue and continue and continue for a length of time you cannot even imagine. And meanwhile, it will give you olives every autumn. And from those olives will come oil, and that oil will feed people who carry your blood, and people who do not even carry your blood, because when a tree lives 1,000 years, families cross, mix, disappear, and the trees continue. Planting an olive tree is the most deeply humble and the most deeply ambitious thing a person can do with a piece of land. And it is within reach, practically, of anyone who has a patio. Number 13. The carob tree. 7 to 15 years until serious production. Tree lifespan between 300 and 500 years under normal conditions. And there are documented century-old carob trees in many corners of the Mediterranean. Southern Portugal, southern Spain, Sicily, Malta, Cyprus. The carob tree is the tree almost everyone has seen on some walk through the Mediterranean countryside, and almost nobody knows how to identify. Dark, knotty trunk, round and dense crown, long brown pods hanging from the branches in autumn like twisted fingers. Those pods are carobs, and they are one of the most underestimated foods in the entire Mediterranean. But what impresses me most about the carob tree is something else. It is one of the most faithful trees that exist. Once established, it asks nothing of you. It resists drought like few others. It resists the extreme heat of the Mediterranean summer. It resists abandonment. It resists successive owners who do not even care for it. And it keeps giving food every autumn. Pod after pod, year after year, century after century. And carob, as few people discover, is a nutritional powerhouse. It is ground into flour and replaces cocoa in many recipes, without caffeine, with less fat and more calcium. It is used to make sweet breads, cookies, desserts, and animals that eat carob, for centuries goats, sheep, pigs, produce better quality meat. It is a multifunctional tree that feeds humans and animals without distinction. If you live in a Mediterranean climate and have a piece of land you do not use, where nothing seems to grow well, plant a carob tree. In 10 years, it will begin to give you something. In 20, it will be in full strength. And in 500, it will still be there, giving to someone. Number 14, the chestnut tree. This is the other great one I promised you. 10 to 15 years until serious production. Tree lifespan between 500 and 1,000 years, with documented cases around 2,000. In Sicily, at the foot of Mount Etna, there is a chestnut tree called the chestnut tree of the 100 horses. 100 horses. The name comes from a medieval legend. They say that a queen of the area, together with 100 knights accompanying her, took shelter beneath its branches during a storm, and it sheltered them all 100, under a single tree. Scientists have dated it between 2,000 and 4,000 years old. It is one of the oldest trees in Europe still alive, and it is still producing every autumn. Chestnuts that the people of the village collect, chestnuts that have fed generations nobody remembers anymore. Under that tree, people who lived before Christ ate. And that is not a figure of speech. That is exactly what happened. Look, the chestnut tree is not only the ancient tree, it is the tree that changed the history of Europe. For centuries, in mountainous areas where wheat did not grow or grew poorly, what kept entire villages alive was chestnuts. They ground them, made chestnut flour, made chestnut bread. They boiled them and ate them the way potatoes are eaten today. They dried them and stored them for the whole winter. Without chestnuts, entire regions of the Italian Apennines, the Pyrenees, northern Portugal, Galicia, Asturias, would not have survived the winter for centuries. This is not romantic nostalgia. It is economic history documented in 1,000 books. Important practical note: the chestnut tree wants a cool, humid climate and acidic soils without lime. It is not for dry, limestone Mediterranean areas. In Galicia, Asturias, northern Portugal, southern France, Cantabria, the Apennines, it does wonderfully. In central and southern Spain, in much of Mexico, it will not prosper. You have to respect the tree. And here, before telling you about the last one, I want to pause with you one more time. The last time. If you have made it to this point in the video, there is something inside you asking you to plant. I know it. Without seeing you, I feel it as I speak to you, because I know this effect. You are thinking of a piece of land, of a large balcony where a huge pot could fit, of your parents' village orchard that is half abandoned, of any place where you could place a tree beneath the soil and let it grow. Do it. Do it this week. And plant just one of the 15. The one that made you feel something while I was telling you about it. Do not wait until you have time. Do not wait until you are ready. Do not wait until you have nothing more urgent to do, because that will never come. My father, who was a man of few words, used to say a phrase that became attached to the family name. He said that the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago, and the second best time is today. It is the oldest saying in the orchard, and it is still true every morning that dawn breaks. Number 15, the walnut tree. I leave it for the end because It has a story that is hard for me to tell without getting a lump in my throat. But I'm going to tell it anyway because that is what this channel exists for. 8 to 15 years until serious production. Tree lifespan between 150 and 300 years. When I was a child, my father planted 3 walnut trees in a row at the back of the orchard. 3. 1 when I was born, 1 when my sister was born, and 1 when my brother was born. 3 walnut trees with our names placed on them at the same time the tree entered the earth. My father, as I have told you, was not a man of many words. But that day he did say a sentence I have remembered my whole life. He was finishing tamping down the soil around the 3rd walnut tree, my little brother's, and he stood up, took off his hat, looked at the 3 trees, and said slowly, almost to himself, "These trees will give you walnuts when I am no longer here, so you remember me." I was 9 years old. I did not understand what I was hearing. I thought my father was saying something strange, one of those odd things countrymen say. I went back to playing. I even forgot the whole sentence for a while. Today, I am 60. My father has been dead for 20 years, and the 3 walnut trees at the back of the orchard are in full production. Every autumn we gather walnuts, my sister, my brother, and I, and we divide the baskets among the 3 of us. And every autumn, when I crack a walnut in the kitchen, in the middle of winter, I remember that phrase, that man with his hat in his hand, that day. And I think about how little time it took my father to turn a simple act, planting a tree, into something that remains with me half a century later. And I think about what he did for me without me knowing it. He did not give me only walnuts. He gave me the idea that some things are worth doing, even if you do not live to see them finished. He gave me the idea that a father is also measured by what he leaves planted. That is why the walnut tree is the last on this list, because it takes longer than the others, because it asks for real patience. But because the walnuts it gives for 200 years. 200 years. My walnut trees will still be giving walnuts when my grandchildren are grandparents, and even beyond. And my father, in that sentence, was not speaking only to me. He was speaking to people who had not yet been born. He was giving walnuts to generations that neither he nor I will ever see. That is planting a tree. That is what money cannot buy. That is what only hands dirty with soil on any ordinary day are capable of leaving behind. Before saying goodbye, I am not going to leave you a recipe. I am not going to leave you a care guide. I am going to leave you something else, something that, in my head, is called the Planter's Manifesto. 3 simple ideas. Write them down if you want, or just listen closely. 1. The best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is this week, not next month, not when you have more time, not when you have finished painting the house or sorting out the paperwork from work. This week, set aside 2 hours. Go to a serious nursery. Buy a single tree from this list. Take it to the soil. Put your hands into it. Plant it. And go home, having done something that will outlive you. 2. Do not plant thinking of yourself. Planting while thinking of yourself is gardening, and gardening is wonderful, but it is something else. Planting while thinking of someone who does not yet exist, of a grandchild who has not yet been decided, of a person who will pass in front of your old house 50 years from now and pick a fruit from the tree you planted without knowing who planted it, that is no longer gardening. That is civilization. That is what the people before us did, and that is why you are eating today. Give it back to those who are coming. 3. When you plant, write a small note on paper, fold it, place it inside a hollow stone next to the roots. or beneath a tile, or inside a small metal box buried beside the tree. A note with your name, the date, and who you planted the tree for. Even if it is a note for no one in particular, even if it is just one sentence, I planted this tree in this year in the hope that someone would eat from it. A century from now, when someone moves the earth for some reason and finds it, it will make a person cry, even though they do not know who you are, I assure you. And that person, thanks to you, will understand something important about life. Fulfill those 3 things, and this video will have been worth it, more than any other on this channel until today. And now you tell me, what tree are you going to plant first? Will you start with the peach tree because you want to see fruit soon and prove to yourself that you can do it? Will you start with the cherry tree because you have a grandchild on the way or already born and you want to mark their arrival with something serious? Will you start with the olive tree because the idea of planting something that lasts 2,000 years has touched something inside you? Tell me below in the comments. And also tell me if someone ever left you a tree that is still bearing fruit in your life. If your father, your grandfather, your grandmother planted something that you are still eating today. Sometimes the comments on this channel are worth more than the video itself. I read them all, without exception. Share this video with someone who has a piece of land and still has not planted anything. Send it to a son who is starting his orchard. Send it to a father who no longer plants because he says he is too old, that there is no point. Send it to him. Sometimes all it takes is for someone to tell another person, plant, even if it is only one. Even if it takes 10 years to see fruit. Plant. Subscribe to Hank's Greenery and hit the bell. Here we keep thinking in the long term. Here we keep planting for those who are coming. I'm Hank, and I'll see you in the next orchard.